Good morning. All right, so if you're at home today, or if you just want to go back over this as a refresher in the evening, here is what we're doing today in class. So we're learning how to add and subtract integers. At the top of your page are some really important rules. Important rule number 1, a subtraction sign is a synonym for a negative. That's probably one of the most forgotten rules every year. A subtraction sign is a negative. So for example, if you have the problem 5 minus 2, that means that's a positive 5 and that's a negative 2. Two negatives in a row cancel out to form a positive. So if you have 4 minus negative 2, that minus a negative becomes 4 plus 2. Same sign, so if you can remember these two rules, it's going to be much simpler. If you have the same sign, you're going to find the sum. That means if you're adding two positives, you're going to add. Or if you're adding two negatives, you're also going to add. But if you have different signs, you're going to find the difference. So if you have a positive number and a negative number in your problem, you're going to subtract. How do you determine if your answer is going to be positive or negative? If you had more negatives in the problem, your answer is going to be negative. If you have more positives in the problem, your answer is going to be positive. Okay, so I realize that was a lot of rules to think about and to hear. We're going to go through each one and practice each one as we solve these problems together. All right, first one I'm looking at is negative 8 plus 3. So I don't have two negatives. It says same signs find the sum. Well, I don't have the same signs, I have different signs. I've got a negative 8 and a positive 3. So here I'm going to fill in different. Now, what does it say? Different signs find the difference. Find the difference means to subtract. Sign of answer. More negatives means a negative answer. Final answer. So if I have different signs, I'm going to subtract. 8 minus 3 is 5, and I had more negatives in my problem, so my final answer would be negative 5. I'm going to switch colors just so you can see where I'm at. Next problem, negative 6 minus 5. Remember, a minus sign is a synonym for a negative. So this is a negative 6 and a negative 5. So my signs are the same. The rule is same signs find the sum. So remember, find the sum means to add. If you're combining two negatives, your answer is going to be a negative. This would be as if the temperature was already negative 6, and from negative 6, the temperature drops 5 more degrees. Then the temperature would be negative 11. 4 minus 9. Remember that a minus sign is a synonym for a negative. So since there's no sign in front of the 4, it's a positive. There's a minus in front of the 9, so it's a negative. So since I have a positive 4 and a negative 9, my signs are different. I'm going to find the difference. I see that I have more negatives than positives. When I have two different signs, I'm going to subtract. I know the difference between 9 and 4 is 5, so that would be negative 5. If the temperature was 4 degrees and it drops 9 degrees, it would now be 5 below 0. Now we got to pay attention to this one very carefully. 3 minus negative 8. Minus minus becomes a plus. So I'm going to rewrite that as 3 plus 8. Now, after you've rewritten the problem is when we apply our rules. Now that I've changed my two negatives to a positive, now I have a positive 3 and a positive 8. So my signs are the same. I'm going to find the sum, which means I'm going to add my numbers together. Anytime that you're adding two positive numbers, your answer will always be positive. If you had $3, you get $8 more, you now have $11. When you write an answer that's positive, you don't put a plus sign in front of it. When there's no sign in front of an integer, you can always assume it's a positive number. 10 plus negative 6. Since there's no sign in front of the 10, I can assume that's positive, but there is a negative in front of the 6. So I've got a positive 10 and a negative 6. My signs are different, which means I'm going to find the difference, or subtract. And I have 10 positives and 6 negatives. Because I have more positives in the problem, my answer is going to have to be a positive. So if I had $10 and I spent $6, I have $4 left. We got a lot going on here on this one. 2 minus -4. See the minus and negative right here? Minus minus becomes plus. So this is going to be -2 plus 4. I've got a -2. Now I have a +4. So those signs are different. We're going to find the difference. I have 4 positives and 2 negatives. Because I have more positives, I'm going to add. No, I'm sorry. My answer is going to be positive. That's not what I meant to say. Because I have more positives, my answer is going to be positive, but that my signs are different, so I'm going to subtract. So 4 minus 2 is 2, and my answer is going to be a +2. -8 plus -4. -8, -4. Same signs. If your signs are the same, you're going to find the sum. Anytime you're combining 2 negatives, your answer is going to have to be a negative. You spent $8 yesterday, then you spent another $4 today. Altogether, you've spent $12. You're -12. -7 minus -3. Remember that rule about 2 negatives in a row becomes a positive. So this minus and negative right here, I'm going to make that a plus. So now that 3 just became a +3, but I still have a -7. My signs are different. We're going to find the difference. So I have 7 negatives and 3 positives. My answer will be negative. The difference between 7 and 3 is 4. And my answer is going to be negative. 9 minus 11. Remember that very first rule. A subtraction sign is a synonym for a negative. So I have +9 and a -11. That minus sign sitting in front of that 11 makes that 11 negative. So since I have a +9 and a -11, my signs are different, which means I'm going to have to find the difference or subtract. I have 9 positives and 11 negatives. I have more negatives, so my sign's going to be negative for my answer. 11 minus 9 is 2, and my answer is going to have to be a -2. 1 minus 6. Remember that very first rule. A subtraction sign is a synonym for a negative. So since we have a -1 and a -6, negative and negative, same signs. Find the sum, which means you're going to add the numbers together. But since both of our numbers are negative, my answer is going to have to be a negative. You spent $1 this morning. You spent $6 this afternoon. You've spent $7, so you're -7. All right, so that is how we add and subtract integers. So you are now going to upload worksheet C, D, and you're going to try those 2 pages on your own. All righty, hope to see you soon.